Hello, everybody. Welcome to this very special live stream. Good morning to those of you that are like me on the West Coast. Good afternoon on the East Coast and everywhere in between. We are going to have a really awesome chat today. I have Kris Sweeting from EMR Tech. He is the founder of EMR Tech here with me today, and we're gonna get into some really fun stuff today. Kind of dive into the basics a little bit for those of you who are still wrapping your mind around red light therapy, but then we're going to talk about some really cool new products that, take light therapy to the next level. I titled this live stream Light Therapy because it's not just red light therapy. Light is amazing and there's so many uses for it. So I'm super excited to have you, Kris. Thanks for taking the time to chat with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah. Just wanted to say hi to everybody in the chat. Thanks for joining in live today. Before we, get into all the science and stuff, I just really want to hear your story and kind of what drove you to become so passionate about light and what drives your innovation in the light therapy world.
Yeah. So, the story keeps evolving, to be honest with you, to the point where, the president of El Salvador is like posting his birthday present with my huge laser acupuncture device and being like, I'm going to need some help using this. And then the Khloe Kardashian contacting me via phone and ordering it all for her sisters for Christmas, and then publicly endorsed me and actually paying me. Like, I didn't pay for that.
Wow.
So like the story, and there's crazy stuff. Bill Gates has been in front of my light now,
Really?
at a friend's house. Yes. And it's just wild, the story keeps evolving, but I'll take it. It really goes back to when I was 3 and I developed vitiligo, and you can still see a little bit on my hands here. I couldn't repigment this. This is normal. You can still see some on my thumb there. But I have spots on my hands and I have some spots on my feet, but I tattooed over it just because you probably don't know this, but the vitiligo is the same disease that Michael Jackson had. That's why he went white. He actually bleached his whole body because it disfigured him so much. Is essentially what happens is people with vitiligo have too much epidermal hydrogen peroxide, and hydrogen peroxide we know is part of the process of bleaching hair, but what it is also a free radical generated by your mitochondria, and it destroys the melanocytes. And people with vitiligo just have too much hydrogen peroxide in their skin, and we didn't know that for a very long time. I got the disease when I was 3 years old. I think it was from like some emotional issues that was just in my environment. That's my understanding. That's my best guess of it because I don't know. But by the time I was 9, it had spread all over my body. I couldn't go water skiing without like people being like, "Oh, did you spill acid on yourself or something?" Like, for real. It was pretty brutal. And by the time I was like 11, like I remember just walking into a McDonald's with my mother, and I saw this like man with it, and he was totally disfigured, right? And I was like, "Oh my God, this is gonna be me," you know? And she started doing library research, and because Google didn't exist back then, and she found this German doctor who had invented this cream with a 95% success rate. Okay, and you can run a blood test to see if it's actually going to work, so you don't have to invest the money up front. This is not normal medicine.
No kidding.
um, okay, so what this cream? It was called pseudocatalase. She's publicly researched. She was a researcher and a dermatologist, and she literally formulated the cream in Germany, in Berlin. And if you can type in her name, Karen Shellrooter. The cream is called pseudocatalase. What it did was it reduced the epidermal, or the hydrogen peroxide in my skin, and then it elevated an enzyme called catalase. Then I would jump into, I had tanning beds in my room since I was 5 years old, full blown 4-door tanning beds. I could barely open them. I'd have to punch in a password, program the timer, and I would tan myself every day. I remember my mom was like, "Oh, did you do your treatment today?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I could barely open the thing." Um, and So I would modulate my skin's biochemistry with this treatment after trying everything. I mean, staying out of the sun, carrying an umbrella, I already had a peanut allergy, so I already had a fanny pack. So I was walking around like, with vitiligo with an umbrella and a fanny
Sounds
pack. It
super
wasn't.
cool.
Yeah, I was the coolest kid in school, and that's really, yeah, that sums it up. Wow, that's interesting. So yeah, we had tried like basically 20 doctors told me there's really nothing you can do. Keep them out of the sun, have an umbrella, apply sunscreen. The craziest thing is that if you put like titanium dioxide, which is in a lot of sunscreens,
Yeah.
if you it's a nanoparticle, and if you go into chlorine, say I just went swimming in a normal chlorine pool, it uncoats the nanoparticle, and that titanium dioxide literally generates specifically hydrogen peroxide. So
Oh,
like, yeah, like there's just so much stuff they're missing, and we literally went the totally opposite route. I was doing synthetic phototherapy. I was getting as much sun as I could when possible, and this treatment that modulated my skin's biochemistry. Then I would go into a specific wavelength of light, 311, 312 nanometer ultraviolet B. Philips FDA cleared bulbs, the same ones we use in our Kryptons. That's
mhm.
why they are expensive, because this is the most expensive, most vetted ultraviolet product in the world. And that's Philips is like a company that's been around for like 50 years, or maybe more. But safety comes first for us. Obviously, these are ultraviolet products, so that's why we do it. And yeah, by the time I was 13 with this treatment, I had repigmented all the skin on my body, minus my hands and feet, which is impossible to do. That's just noted. And like I said, this treatment works in 95% of people, and we still got people walking around and doctors telling them to stay out of the sun and try these. It's insane. So, um, my products are wellness products. We're not making medical claims on them or anything like that. But I obviously have like a lot of user experience with light therapy, because I had all these little devices when I was growing up, and I use them, and I know my experience with them. So I'm just making products that I would use, and I think are better than the ones that I used back in the day.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what I'm hearing from you is that we really have your mom to thank for all of these amazing products that we are enjoying now. Because
Yeah.
I know from experience, I don't know that there's a better researcher than a mom who has a kid that needs help. And the
Yeah.
lengths that moms will go to, it's pretty amazing. So kudos to her for sure.
Yep. Yeah, she was at the library like all the time. Like I just knew and a crazy part of my story is she got me into science so early with this stuff that I would print off public medical studies and highlight like 10 and like highlight them in the basement at like 14, 15, and like to the point where I was putting on a transdermal pregnenolone and trying to direct a conversion with light to testosterone. By the time I was 18, my parents thought I was nuts, right?
Yep.
But,
Yep.
but
Wow.
yeah,
What a journey. Okay. So I really appreciate that that peek into your past, because I feel like there's a lot of I mean, there's tons of red light therapy companies coming on the market right now, and they're just, it seems to me, carbon copying whatever's, popular.
100%.
And I really value your approach and your passion, because it's really obvious that you're doing it for a different reason. You're really interested in the science and the effect it has on the human body, and that's what's kind of keeping you at the cutting edge. That's been my opinion from looking
Yeah.
outside in. But real quick, before we get into even more sciencey stuff, I just want like a quick 101 of red light therapy, because that's kind of the most accessible right now is the red light therapy. And that's
hmm
been kind of the gateway for most people to get into
hmm
light therapy in general. And so, for someone who just doesn't really know a lot about it, why do we need it? And can't we just get the same thing from going outside?
Yeah, I mean, you can get the same thing kind of from going outside, but the problem is like, there's not sun all the time. It's going to take you a lot longer to get like a therapeutic dose. I'm not talking about my company. I'm just talking about photobiomodulation in general right now. It would take you for devices, for red light therapy devices. they can give you a therapeutic dose of red light in like 15 minutes as opposed to like 10 to 15 minutes as opposed to like 3 hours, something like that. Okay. So, and sometimes even more on a cloudy day. But um, the two things that red light therapy does is it resolves acute inflammation. That's why it's really good at wound healing. So I can give you an example of that. Like, and this is Mary Dyson's work. It's really Barry, but she was like the one who studied wound healing, started on rats and then went to humans. Basically, what it does is the red light hits the blood and it modulates what's called soluble protein mediators in the blood. These are like cytokines, fractalkines, chemokines. They're basically chemical messengers in the blood that dictate if the body is going to go into an anti-inflammatory state or a state of inflammation. And when you get a cut or a wound, you want to resolve the first stage is acute inflammation. And the faster you can resolve the acute inflammation, the faster you can get onto the proliferative phase and dermal remodeling. Okay, the skin basically reconstructing itself. And red light and near infrared light hits the blood and modulates this cocktail of soluble protein mediator messengers and pushes the body into an anti-inflammatory state, resolving the acute inflammation faster. It also has a chronic inflammation effect. So the other thing that it does is it raises the body's chemical energy. It naturally stimulates the body to increase ATP production. And the way it does that is certain wavelengths, specifically 630, 670, and 830 nanometers. So that's 630 and 670 in the red visible spectrum, and 830 is near infrared. So these three wavelengths hit the fourth enzyme in the mitochondrial electron transport chain. So I'll take you back to where they taught us about mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell, in like grade 9. Now, there's an electron transport chain. All food gets broken down into electrons. The electrons flow down the chain. There's 5 enzymes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. At the end, the electrons flow and it spins the electron and it generates chemical energy. The fourth enzyme, right before the ATPase that spins the electron, is called cytochrome C oxidase. These 3 wavelengths of light specifically hit that enzyme. It's called photodissociation. They're light photons are dissociating nitric oxide from the electron transport chain. When that happens, because oxygen competes with nitric oxide for flow down the chain, when you unbind the nitric oxide, there's no more competition. Oxygen is more effectively processed. The net result is increased adenosine triphosphate. Now, the most important thing to connect the dots here is the 2 factors that are leading to 80% of all deaths in this country, or sorry, in the world, basically. I think it's mostly in the US. They have a little bit more mitochondrial disease, but is chronic inflammation and a lack of chemical energy. These things create heart disease, Alzheimer's, certain epigenetic cancers, type 2 diabetes, and Alzheimer's is basically just type 3 diabetes. But and there's actually a couple more things, but those 4 diseases kill like 70% of people. So, this is really important. And then with my ultraviolet stuff, and I'll just touch on this really quickly, but if you okay, so there's studies with the Philips bulbs. They usually most of the studies are conducted using this product because what they want to maintain consistency in the studies, and this is the most vetted product, ultraviolet product on the market. So in 73% of vitamin D deficient individuals, there's studies that show after 2-week exposure to these bulbs, they doubled their vitamin D status. Okay, when vitamin D goes up, inflammation goes down. The 2 are inversely correlated. If you get COVID, or I don't know if I can say that. Oh my gosh.
I think it's okay now.
Yeah, it's fine. All right, cool. I have some stuff on that from Jack Cruz. Oh my gosh. But okay, so if you get COVID, your inflammation is going to soar. Your vitamin D is going to get crushed, and if you get a lot of sun, your vitamin D is going to soar, and your inflammation is going to get crushed, and that's just how it works. So the red light's reducing inflammation, but also the ultraviolet is reducing inflammation as well. So you get like a double effect. And I actually believe that ultraviolet light, through my personal experience, is much more performance enhancing. It's
Hmm.
obviously a lot more. It's obviously a lot more. What's the word? Like, it's not like dangerous, but it's like you have to be more care. It's more powerful. Like like I've done all the mistakes. I accidentally programmed my light for. That's why I have timers that shut it off, and I know no one's going to get burnt with this product. Um, but I have really burnt myself with phototherapy devices, and so yeah, it's just that's part of the expertise that goes in. I've made all the mistakes. I've used it every day of my life for my entire life.
Yeah. Yeah, the UV is not something that I have dived into yet, and it's one of those things where it's like you hear it and you're like, "Ooh, that sounds scary," because we're all told that the UV light is so dangerous, and,
Hmm.
yeah, I think that, obviously it can be very dangerous, but that also means that it's very, very powerful, and I think
Exactly.
a lot of these things, I mean, there's like a U-shaped curve, and so if you find out the optimal amount, that's where you're gonna see the benefits. So for
100%. And I
for
can explain on that. I
yeah,
can
go for it.
explain how to find that. So it's called the minimal erythemal response.
Okay.
So when you get burnt, you can push on your skin and you can displace the redness, right? But what is that? That's blood. So ultraviolet light is short wavelength light. It only penetrates. It's on the other end of the spectrum as near infrared light. Near infrared and red light can penetrate into the body. Ultraviolet light is short wavelength light, even shorter than blue, and it only penetrates like millimeters into the epidermis.
Hmm.
So the blood cells, the red blood cell mass, has to rise to the surface of the skin to harvest the ultraviolet energy into the blood. It happens overnight, and it goes back into your vasculature, and that's why you actually wake up less red. It gets stored in your melanin. But imagine when you get burned. So this is how bad they've lied to us. Okay. So they call it a burn to scare you, right? But it's just our natural human process of harvesting light into your blood. And guess what happens? You can pull 60% of your red blood cell mass into your skin before your organ systems fail. So that would be a terrible burn. That would be really, really bad. But what if you reduce the amount of blood flowing, red blood cell mass in your vasculature and put it into your epidermis? Well, that's going to reduce your blood pressure. Okay, we already know that ultraviolet A reduces blood pressure through the release of nitric oxide and the vasodilation. But what about creating vascular slack? No one's even talked about this. I've just literally thought this. It's obvious. It's not. It's not like it's obvious.
Wow. Okay. So practically for people looking at products, we've kind of talked about a few different things, the red and the near infrared, and that would
Hmm.
be your more basic panels like the I have the Inferno and then the like the Fire Wave and things. And then you have this other line that also
Hmm.
includes the UV. You want to talk about that line, and you mentioned how it's more expensive, which it is.
Hmm.
And just kind of how the red light and the UV work together and kind of that whole line.
Yeah.
That's one that I
Yeah.
think more people are not as aware of.
So I missed how to dose it. So basically, what minimal erythemal response, or basically you want to get as like the smallest amount pink as possible. That's how you know that's the perfect dose. And it
Mhm.
depends on everybody, but that's how you figure it out for yourself. And my devices are meant to like not go over that. Like you won't be able to like really hurt yourself.
It's not something you
But
want to lay under for an hour.
no, no, no. But so the way that red and near infrared light complements ultraviolet light, and so ultraviolet light does break down collagen and elastin. But the problem with people that are like, oh, the sun ages my skin. I saw my grandfather was laying out in the sun all the time. He loved tanning out in the sun, and look at his skin now. Well, that's because in the morning it's red and near infrared light, okay? And that stimulates mitochondrial function in the fibroblasts that produce collagen and elastin. So it upregulates their production, okay? And it also preconditions the skin. And this is all publicly documented scientific information. It preconditions the skin to accept the ultraviolet radiation in the later morning to afternoon. Then, like I said before, at sunset, it's red again, right? And I already said that it resolves acute inflammation. So basically, what happened throughout the day, is it upregulated collagen and elastin production. Then it destroyed collagen and elastin. Okay, and then there's some inflammation from the ultraviolet light, and then the red light resolves acute inflammation. The inflammation that was just induced by the ultraviolet light in the midday. And so people just go out at 11 to get a tan because they kind of know that that's when they're going to see the pigment response, and they're not getting the one that preconditions your skin, strengthens your solar callus, thickens your skin, and produces collagen elastin. And then they're also not getting the anti-inflammatory wavelengths at the end of the day. So you can't blame the sun. And if you want to blame the sun, check this out. So they're saying, okay, that it creates reactive oxygen species in the skin, the ultraviolet light. But guess what creates reactive oxygen species way more effectively? Blue light, specifically your phone, specifically your screens. And they spike. So this is the blue spectrum. It spikes at 450 nanometers. Okay, that wavelength specifically, and I do not know why they chose this. Well, actually, I kind of do, but we won't talk about that. Creates the most reactive oxygen species or free radicals in your body out of any wavelength in the entire spectrum. So
yeah, so we're working at a deficit. It's not like we're just natural human beings and we're trying to, biohack to get to some higher level. We're actually working with less than optimal circumstances to begin with.
that's a really good way to look at it, and that just, and actually red light balances out the blue because it literally does the exact opposite. I can give you an example. Like blue light makes a mitochondria swell. For every 1 angstrom, when the mitochondria swells, for every 1 angstrom increase in the electron transport chain between the enzymes, electron quantum tunneling decreases by a factor of 10. Okay, so when that happens, you produce less chemical energy. It actually has a name called mitochondrial heteroplasmic percentage.
Wow.
And you can measure it, and it'll tell you basically how, like, what kind of mitochondrial dysfunction you have and how severe it is, and that will be reflective in your disease state completely. And like this is seen across the board in heart disease, type 2 diabetes. Like it's going to be there. That factor is going to be there. So red light shrinks the mitochondria, condenses the electron transport chain, and it's the same for every 1 angstrom increase in distance, the electrons quantum tunnel by a factor of 10 more effectively. So
wow. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot to wrap your head around, but that is absolutely fascinating. And I love how you talked about the red light and near infrared light working in synergy with the UV light, because it's so easy to just hyper focus on, one vitamin, one mineral, this is the magic thing. But really, when we get all the different things in balance, and I think light is one that a lot of people just don't think about having to get in balance. But when you do, you really see how the different times during the day and the different wavelengths of light just work together in synergy. And the closer we can get to living outside throughout all of those different times in the day, I think the healthier our bodies are going to be. But of course, we live in a world where we're sitting here staring at a screen right now. And, we could give all that up and become, nomads and live outside all the time. But it's like when you're able to marry the modern world with, more ancient traditional circadian rhythm living, that's, I think, what we're looking for.
I love some of this stuff. Like I love some of the modern stuff. Like, I wouldn't give it up to just go back and like have no clothes, and run around. Like, but like at the same time, it's, there's some precautions that need to be addressed if we're going to deal with it like in a smart way. And yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's kind of like we have to honor the tradition while still, moving into the future. So
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. That's why I'm trying to do 30,000 steps a day, barefoot on the beach these days.
wow.
And yeah, it's really helping my health. I swear by it. And that's actually like a form of like EMDR, Yeah, I think that's what it's called. It's like a trauma release therapy because it's bilateral, and honestly, it just helps me. So.
Yeah, that's amazing. It does take a lot of time. But and that's one of the things I love about like doing the red light therapy. It's like, yes, maybe I could go outside for 3 or 4 hours different times of the day and get these benefits, maybe, depending on the time of the year and what's going on in my environment. But when I'm able to just sit in front of it in the morning, 20 minutes. It saves my time, which, I don't have a
Hmm.
lot of. And it just, yeah, it works well with my modern lifestyle. So
Hmm.
you talked a little bit about finding the right dose with the UV light. Do you
Hmm.
have any tips for finding the right dose with the red light and the near infrared light as well?
Yeah, so like here's the thing. There's 4,000 clinical studies on photobiomodulation, red light therapy, low level laser therapy, all the same thing. Uh, we don't know the exact doses for each like different pathology. Not that I'm saying that my devices treat pathologies, okay? But just in general, we don't have that exact data. Studies need to be replicated, and it's just what in my experience, I've been doing this for 8 years, like literally running this company, and and people can get a little lost or I'm not a huge fan of people like other companies are like giving like exact protocols on what to do, like because they don't know, and that's the truth. And like you said, like all these, like well, yeah, all the companies that I've seen except one, which is like nice to see, but they're just basically reselling like Chinese products that are already made, and that's why they all look the same. It's pretty obvious, but the only way that they can differentiate their company is by making outrageous claims or writing ebooks that literally say, "Hey, I'm going to tell you how to treat this pathology," and usually they're like chiropractors or something that like not even medical doctors. So it's really inappropriate. My advice for people, just to keep it simple, um, is for devices that are over 100 milliwatts per centimeter squared at a distance of 80 or 30 to 80 centimeters, you're going to want to do like 10 to 15 to 20 minutes potentially, depending on the depth of the target tissue. Like if you have like some really deep issues in a knee example, right? Like for example, then you're gonna want to do like 30 centimeters for like 15 to 20 minutes. If you're just want to address a cosmetic concern, maybe upregulate collagen elastin in your skin, you'd want to sit maybe around 80 centimeters or even a little bit further, 90 centimeters, and do it for like 10 minutes, okay? So because skin's the most superficial tissue on your body, you have to factor in like it's just impossible to tell like the array the joules absorbed for a hip issue is going to be different than an elbow issue because of the obstructive nature of the tissue in front of where you're trying to get at, and this is one factor that just is just really hard to control, and so they're working on it. Obviously they'll get protocols at some time, but we're not there yet.
Yeah. I really appreciate that because I feel like people make themselves look dumb by trying to act like they know more than they do. And so I
Mhm.
appreciate when you just don't know something, just to say, I don't know. And I
Yeah.
think that's the smarter move. Um,
Yeah.
if someone, what would be some things to look for to know if you are getting too much red light therapy? If you're like
Hmm.
trying to nail down your dose, are there any symptoms that you would keep an eye out for?
Yeah, you can feel nauseous.
Okay.
You can feel nauseous. You can potentially even get some like headache.
Mhm.
You can feel fatigued instead of energized. Because there is a bell curve, like you said, you're correct about that. It's called biphasic dose response, and there is a sweet spot. So, but what I can tell you, like I said, I've had been running this business, and I used to be extremely involved in all my customers' responses, and they're all biohackers. They were all biohackers at the beginning. A lot of Jack Cruz's community, and all these guys have aura rings, and women have aura rings, and uh, the heart rate variability is something that you should definitely be paying attention to when you're using your red light therapy device. Um, because if you're getting a correct dosage, it will spike.
Yeah. Okay. That is what I noticed first because I have an ultra human ring. And that was the like within a week, I was like, I
Yeah,
would see my HRV
exactly.
just go straight
Exactly.
up.
Exactly. Like
And I
20
was like,
points, right?
it doubled. I mean, it
Okay.
was yeah, because and I had a chronically low HRV. I had hyperthyroid issues that had my HRV like in single digits, and I'd gotten it up, a little bit, and then it doubled, and I was just like, okay, I'm sold. Like there's
That's
something.
freaking sweet. I knew
Yeah,
it. See that like that's what I'm talking about. Like I'm trying to tell you the real truth of what my experience has been, and so that's just yeah, that's what I would expect. I've never seen it double, but that's awesome.
yeah, it was wild. I I love all of the science, like that. It's so fascinating to kind of like dig into it and see it. And that's not something that I'm an expert in. And so, all the talk that I have done about red light therapy since December is when I started. It's all been experiential. Just, this is what I experienced. So I, come on and I can talk about how it turned my brain on and how I, all these symptoms that I had from iron deficiency just like went away within a few weeks. I can speak without slurring my words, like this energy that I have, like all this stuff. But to like, so I experienced that. And then to kind of
Hmm.
hear like, oh, it's the mitochondria and the ATP and the electron transport chain, like all that stuff, like that's just like icing on the cake to, my experience and what I've felt, like the magic from this. Okay, so I want to now, like my experience with it has been cognitive and like my energy, just my overall well-being. And like if that's all that I got from red light therapy, like I'm sold for life. Like
Hmm.
I'm doing it. But
Yep.
the thing that you're kind of breaking into now, which is really cool, is the more cosmetic side because
Hmm.
it's not only just for your, overall well-being, but it actually can be really helpful for skin and just like
Hmm.
the cosmetic world. And so I know that you have some new products, including the new mask that you just came out with. And
Hmm.
so let's kind of transition into talking about that and kind of where you're going with those new products and how they are unique. We talked earlier about how you don't just follow the trends, but you
Hmm.
are very innovative in bringing something actually new to the market. And so I really am excited about what you have going with the cosmetic side.
Thank you. Yes, so am I. I mean, it's been a long time in the making. I'll tell an interesting story. My old well, she's almost acting as CEO. In some ways, I would have considered her that, but we actually dated a long time ago, and she and essentially, I don't know if you know the abnormal beauty company Decium. Decium caused The Ordinary. The
Oh,
Ordinary.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah, they just got bought by Estee Lauder for 1.3 billion. But she was the personal assistant for Brandon Truax. Brandon Truax was the founder of Decium, and she was also his real estate agent. A long story short, a lot of stuff happened. He ended up not surviving.
Mm.
It's some pretty wild stories, but I got to meet him about 5 or 6 years ago. I think it was about 6 years ago, and he taught me a lot about cosmetics. And he told me to go to South Korea, and I did because that's where the best cosmetics are made. And I've been, I already had if I could summarize anything in terms of my knowledge in science, is it's going to be like about the skin and light.
Mm.
Um, and so he told me to go to South Korea. And what I learned from my experience with vitiligo is that you can modulate the skin's biochemistry with topical applicants. Like the cream pseudocatalase modulated my skin's biochemistry by lowering the epidermal hydrogen peroxide, increasing catalase, the enzyme catalase. Then I would go into a specific wavelength of light to target, to more effectively target a
Mm.
certain pathology at that time, but for my company, we're addressing cosmetic concerns. Okay, like fine lines and wrinkles by increasing collagen and elastin, hyperpigmentation, irritation and redness, and vascular health. And so certain wavelengths of light are already known to do this. For example, 633 nanometer red light increases collagen and elastin most effectively. If you pair it with 830, it it can increase collagen and elastin, but I don't like I omitted that wavelength in my facial mask because near infrared light can trigger hyperpigmentation, and none of the women that are going to buy my product want that. Okay, so let's just leave that out. So 630 is for fine lines and wrinkles, and it's in my mask. It increases collagen and elastin. 525 nanometer green light effectively addresses hyperpigmentation. You guys can chat GBT this. Just literally type in chat GBT what wavelength is most studied and most effective for hyperpigmentation. It's going to show you 525 nanometer green light. I haven't even done that, but I know the research is there. Then we got so that's age spots, sunspots, and just general hyperpigmentation. Melasma is different. Melasma is actually caused by blue light, and red light therapy can help that. So for irritation and redness, even like rosacea-like symptoms, yellow light has been deemed effective for that, and that's 580 nanometer yellow light. And then for vascular health, it's a little less studied, but there's orange light. And so going back to modulating or priming the skin to have an enhanced effect by a certain wavelength of light. So now I have a hydrolyzed collagen mask mixed with vitamin C and different ingredients that enhance collagen synthesis. So it's a face mask. It's soaked in serum. It's better than just applying a serum. You leave it on for 10 minutes. You can watch TV. Then you take it off. And my mask has been designed to float over your skin 3 millimeters. Okay. So imagine all these masks. Yeah. Imagine all these masks that sit right on your skin. You just apply a serum, and then you gotta peel it off after because it's still sticky. Then you gotta clean it. The user experience is totally different with this. You don't have that uncomfortability of applying something that's sticky and then ripping it off and then having to clean it. It literally floats above your skin, only 3 millimeters, which is perfect. Yep.
Yeah, that is
And
awesome.
then yeah, and then so we have a vitamin, basically a white. I can't say whitening. That's like literally like banned by Health Canada. You have to say brightening. Okay.
Okay. Sounds
But
good.
essentially, it is like in a whitening agents or bleaching agents for the skin, like niacinamide. There's also vitamin C. It interferes with melanogenesis. There's alpha L-butrin. There's different, and even coenzyme Q10, which in 3 studies is shown to enhance photobiomodulation. But that's a separate thing. So if you're trying to address hyperpigmentation, you would apply our vitamin mask first that has all these bleaching agents in it. And then after 10 minutes, you put on the mask and do 525 nanometer green light for hyperpigmentation, age spots, and sunspots. And you're going to get a more enhanced, a more effective response. And I know that because I know this compound that this formulation, my ex-girlfriend had a laser burn from hair removal on her back. Don't ask me why. Don't ask me why. I didn't ask why, but it was like it was large. It was large, and I was like, well, let's try and get this out, and it literally reduced by like 60%, and that's a serious hyperpigmentation. That's like not a normal age spot, and I think that you guys are gonna have like a lot of success with this green light vitamin mask for hyperpigmentation, and even the red light and stuff. I think the yellow light has a little bit like it's less studied, and I don't think people have as much redness and stuff. I think it's mostly the fine lines and wrinkles with the red light and the hydrolyzed collagen mask and the vitamin mask for hyperpigmentation, and the green light for hyperpigmentation that people are going to actually really see a lot of success with.
Okay. And so the mask, it has, did you say it was 3 or 4 different
There's
waves?
4 wavelengths. It has red, Yeah, red, green, yellow, and orange. And I'll just
Okay.
quickly recap. So red is for upregulating collagen elastin production. Green, 525 nanometer green light is for hyperpigmentation. 580 nanometer yellow light is for irritation, redness, and rosacea-like symptoms, even though we don't claim anything about rosacea.
Sure.
And 590 orange light is for vascular health.
Okay. And then, so this system that you have now is different masks, different like
Sheet masks. They're
infusion
sheet
strips.
masks. Like they're called sheet masks, and they're made
Okay.
in South Korea. And they're like white sheets that come in like a one use. There's 10 in each box. Okay.
Yeah.
You basically open the pack, you take the sheet mask out, you apply it. My mom uses them all the time while she's watching TV. And
Mhm.
then she'll put the mask on, and there's zero light leakage, right, Neely? Like you've tried it. There's like yeah, it totally protects your eyes. And the reason we did that actually is because there was a recall with blue light from Neutrogena because it was damaging people's eyes. But that's because blue light is hazardous, you know?
Mhm.
And all these things have been taken into account with my products.
Yeah. So you can kind of target, if you have a certain condition or thing you want to address, you can target the topical plus the light
Yes.
work together. Like we talked about in synergy. I just love that.
Yeah, and it's called Light Fusion. It's such a cool name too. I've been working on these formulations for like 4 or 5 years,
Mm.
and obviously, like you can kind of guess that like I'm not like a cosmetics, like I didn't know what I was doing, but I finally got it, and it's been a lot of thinking and a lot of work, but I finally got it, and I know you guys are gonna love it. I really know it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So is the light fusion stuff available to purchase now on the
It
website?
will it will be in like 2 or 3 weeks for pre-order.
Okay. And the
Yeah, with
mask.
South Korea, we gotta order a lot of stuff. It's not like any other like manufacturing countries in Asia and stuff like that. Like they really make you come to the table or you can't play ball with the South Koreans. Like that's just how it is. So
Yeah.
it's a little risky, but it is. I really believe in this, so we're going forward with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, but the masks are now available, the light masks. And they're still on like the pre or the introductory price, right?
Yeah, it's
They're
it's 100. It comes to, with your code. It comes to 174.30. Our standard price is 699. But that's what I know I can get for it. But I just want to flood the market with EMR Tech right now. We're taking over for real.
yeah. So, I mean,
With the help of Neely.
I imagine the price will go up in the next few months. So it's definitely
It will. It will. It's just not fair to my company to sell it at that. But I really want to flood the market, and I know that the products are better, and I know we can take over by just doing that. So.
yeah, that's awesome. I just love the synergy. And I wanted to mention for the people watching live, if you do have any questions about all of this, go ahead and put them into the chat and we'll try to get to those here in a little bit. Um, I'll keep monitoring the chat here. I did have one question about it's about your regular red light therapy devices as well as the masks. They're a little different than the other red light products on the market because you have the big cob lights.
Mm,
And I know that the
yeah.
masks kind of use the similar type technology. Is that right?
No,
Rather than just
the
being
mat.
a whole bunch of little lights, it's
No,
more.
no, no. That's not. That's well. Let me first talk about the Cobb
Yeah.
technology. Okay, so if you go and look at our Inferno, or the large globes, okay, so essentially all the lamps on the market, the reason they look the same is because they're just 3-watt diodes in an order. It's literally that's what it is. Okay, our Cobb chips, the large globes, consist of 64 of those 3-watt diodes packed into circumference of about an inch and then beamed out with a cone-shaped lens, okay, which further amplifies the light. And so our radiance is so much higher. There's companies out there, a lot of companies say a lot of things, but if you actually measure our devices at like right at the panel, ours are just going to be like 1,500 milliwatts per centimeter squared, and theirs is going to be about 200. So there's a huge difference. And what that allows you to do is it gives user versatility. I could some people might call it treatment versatility, but I'm not using that word. I'm going to just call it user versatility. And what I mean by that is you have the option to use it at much higher power if you want, but you also have the option by bringing it closer, right?
Mhm.
Um, because the light power drops off. It's called inverse square law. All electromagnetic fields follow inverse square law. The farther you are from it, like your cell phone, even the less powerful the electromagnetic radiation is going to be from the device. Okay, so what it allows you to do is use it at a further distance. When you use it at a further distance, you get more you get more um, um, exposure on your body. Like the surface coverage is actually better, and even with our small device, the Firewave, you can get full body irradiation if you sit in meditations pose, which I recommend because if you're sitting in meditations pose, you can do some deep breathing. Um, Breathing through the nose is shown to increase nitric oxide by 16 times, hyperoxygenating the tissues. And if you remember how what I talked about, how photobiomodulation or red light therapy works on the mitochondria, releasing nitric oxide and increasing oxygen production, it's really synergistic and it's a great way to charge yourself up in the morning.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, this is not quite a question, but something we could maybe talk about, that there some research papers are coming out about the dangers of red light as it damages the body's cells. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah,
Have you
I don't
seen
think
anything
that's
like
true. I just don't think that's I don't think that's true. I mean, there's always going to be the odd study that comes out and finds some maybe deleterious effect, but it's very rare in the photobiomodulation research to have a deleterious effect. Super rare.
Yeah, and there's a lot of research on red light therapy, correct? Like it's
So
very well
much.
studied.
It's Yeah, 4,000 clinical studies. I have a huge database of it all, and almost all of it is positive. You know,
Yeah.
to the point where scientists actually say that it should be banned and considered a PED, a performance enhancing drug,
Yeah.
and it should be banned in professional sports. So
Yeah, that's
they
wild.
literally state that the scientists state that, and yeah, so.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So it's not, there's a lot of in the alternative health world, there's a lot of stuff that just doesn't have the research. Not to say that it's not valid, because you have to start somewhere, but something like red light therapy, I think is just so well researched. And
Super
I
well researched.
we are seeing it explode onto the consumer market, and I think we're gonna hopefully see it more prevalent in the medical system, maybe in the next few years, 10 years, I don't know, but it seems like there's just so much research behind it that it's like, can we keep ignoring this?
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, there's a lot of even like my experience. There's a lot of like very important, smart people, like all the whole Kardashian family. This was their Christmas present. Like these are not stupid people, and then right and like a lot of celebrities, to be honest with you, have contacted me and these are, these people are not spending $20,000 on my Ultron because just for the heck of it.
Right. Yeah, totally. Okay, another question here from Dustin. What root causes might I want to use red light therapy to help and to start to heal?
What root causes? Sorry, can you expand on that question?
Yeah, so I'm imagining like what would someone maybe have in order
Okay,
to want to start using red light therapy, which,
great
you
question.
know, yeah.
I can tell you about my experience. So I had like some receding hair, and that's actually the first reason I made my little fire wave. And I would put it at the top of my bed, and I would just lie and meditate. And it actually, in 3 studies, it shows a hypnotic effect. So I ended up falling asleep, and it fell on my pillow and burned a hole in my pillow. So don't do that. Don't do that. Like I said, I got all the bad experiences. Do not do that. I use it on a yoga mat, and so if you're having hair issues, it increased blood flow. Wherever energy goes, blood flows. That's a quantum biological principle. It actually reduces scalp DHT. That's why people take like finasteride to reduce 5% of testosterone converts to dihydrotestosterone. Dihydrotestosterone binds to the hair follicle, depletes of oxygen and nutrients. Hair miniaturizes. We actually have a shampoo on our website. That's the first Light Fusion product. It's got a
Wow.
granted patent for the reversal of hair depilations. You can Google minoxidil, which is actually uh, there's like a name of a company, but I'm not gonna talk. It's called minoxidil, and they use it. But menthol is actually shown to be more effective, way more effective. And in the studies, you can see the pictures of the hair growth. So um, you can go check that out. But yeah, I mean, hair growth is what I used it for. And my girlfriend at the time was like giving me a head rub, and she's like, "Holy shit, this is working," because you could feel all the hairs coming in. And
Wow.
that's really when I started like thinking, "Holy, like this red light therapy is really true." And they actually know the exact wavelength that's good for hair loss, and it's 830 nanometers, which is in our devices. You
Okay.
can type that in.
Nice.
And what else? I think just general fatigue. I mean, chronic inflammation and the lack of ATP affects a lot of different diseases. Low vitamin D status affects basically all diseases. Because if you have low vitamin D, you're gonna have high inflammation. So, it's kind of red light therapy and light therapy. Red light therapy and ultraviolet light therapy is that's kind of a weird question because it can help almost everything. And it's like a weird thing to say because you're like, oh, well, that's crazy. But like fundamentally addressing chronic inflammation and chemical energy production, it's that's why that I can say that.
Yeah. It's kind of like, talking about a specific nutrient and saying, what conditions can we treat with this nutrient? Well, maybe there's some, targeted ways to use a nutrient to treat a condition, but just in general, we just need them for health. Like we need them to have our bodies to function properly. And I've really changed my views on light in the last year or so, looking at them more like nutrients to keep my
Hmm.
body healthy rather than simply just to treat a specific disease. So that's kind of how
Hmm.
I approach it.
Hmm.
All right, we got a question from Wicked Low Carb. Been doing it twice a day for 11 weeks, but haven't seen any improvements with my osteoarthritis inflammation. Can you please provide specifics as to wavelengths and time to help with this?
So I can't really comment on specific pathologies, and I apologize for that. But if you can DM us, I can try and give you a call, like a personal call. I'll give you a call. I can't. I'm not allowed to like. That would kind of be like a doctor, and
Medical
I'm not.
advice. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, totally, totally. Yeah, but
but
so
I'm
I'm
happy to help as best I can. That's for sure. So DM me on Instagram, and just I'll respond to you personally.
awesome. Yeah, Dustin, I know Dustin. He is completely bald, so he really needs some red light therapy.
Yeah. Well, the only way after you lose your hair, so the hairs stay intelligent phase, which is dormant phase for up to 2 to 3 years before they commit apoptosis, which is cellular death. After that, you need a hair transplant. But before that, you can use different things to kind of stimulate them back to life. Depending on how aggressive it is, maybe you only need red light therapy. Maybe you need red light therapy and like a little bit of finasteride. Maybe you need red light therapy, finasteride and minoxidil or some menthol like shampoo like mine. You
Mm,
know, maybe you need to change your diet. Maybe you need to stop drinking milk that increases DHT. Maybe you need to stop using nicotine that significantly increases DHT, or maybe you're taking too much creatine that increases DHT. There's a lot of different things.
yeah. Do you know if there are like hair loss clinics that use red light therapy? Is it becoming as popular in like the hair loss world? as it is in like
Yeah, but
stuff.
yeah, but like it's really stupid to go to those clinics when because they're going to charge you more than my device. It's
Right.
ridiculous. It's
Right.
just like yeah, and it's a great business too.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
yeah.
I've had some people message me and say, "Well, I've been going and paying $100 a visit for this. Do you think it's worth?" And I'm like, "Just, buy the device, and then
Mhm.
it's not something you even have to keep buying batteries for, or you just plug it into the wall and it keeps on working." It's yeah,
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 and
no
our
subscription.
devices, yeah, exactly, and it really, yeah, and like our devices are like really well built. That's the thing that everyone notices comparatively to the other products on the market. But I've literally had some guy, so I think his wife threw his Firewave off the second balcony of their house onto cement, and the thing still worked. And I was like, yeah,
Not recommended.
yeah, yeah. I
Oh,
don't
wow.
know what he did, but it's got to be
Yeah,
bad.
I don't know if I want All right. Well, I think we're gonna wrap it up if there are not any other questions. Is there anything else you want to touch on or chat about before we wrap up?
No, I just want to say like I'm not here to the first thing that I had to do when I created business was just make products that I'm okay selling. I can go to sleep at night knowing that I did the best that I possibly could. Um, I stand behind my products 100%. And if you're not happy, you can send them back. But I really think you're gonna love my products. Like obviously I'm biased. I'm the founder of the company, but I think my company is the best in the world at this,
Mm,
and not by a little bit, by far.
mm.
And so I'd love to see what you think. And thank you so much for your time, and thanks for listening.
Yeah, awesome. One more question popped in here. Let's do this and then we will wrap it up. Which panel do you recommend for someone just starting out and looking for multiple types of benefits, just whole body stuff?
Yeah, I mean, for the price point, I really like the Fire Dragon. I would go with the Fire Dragon Pro. We use Meanwell power drivers. Literally like the difference from the Pro when I made the Pro, you can type in Meanwell power driver on Google and you'll see how expensive they are, and then you'll understand the price increase.
Right.
Compared to like $5, they're like $80. This is a difference in the product quality. Okay. Um, Oh, did we freeze here? No, we're good.
We're good.
But I would probably go with the Fire Dragon Pro because it's even for me, like I'm 6'2", and if I sit in meditations pose, I can get full body coverage. It's super portable. It's got a stand, you can angle it. It's got our most powerful cob chip in it. It's got a 288-watt cob chip. Um, I think that's a really good place to start. And then the LED mode is not so bright that you can use it to kind of light up your house at night.
Yeah.
And so it works for, indoor lighting solutions as well at night that don't deplete your melatonin.
Yeah.
And that's what I would do. And then
Yeah.
also those lamps are really good at targeting your head. And oh, I want to share one more thing. If people are going to do it on their hair, after you're done your hair, or just you can tilt if you're on your yoga mat, just tilt your head back, and it's called transcranial photobiomodulation, where you apply light to the brain. 2% of the near infrared light will penetrate the skull. You do it right here because the bone is thinnest and there's no hair, which is a photon or a light particle blocker. And you can feel the light being applied from the cob chip right to your forehead, and that's called transcranial photobiomodulation. And increasing the chemical energy in your brain is something really important.
Yeah.
And you just tilt your head back a little bit and you'll feel it on a
Yeah.
yoga mat.
The other thing I love about red light therapy is just how pleasant it is. It's like sitting with your face in the sunshine, and you get to do it every morning, no matter if it's uh, cloudy outside or what. It's just like this.
Yeah.
There's so many health practices that are unpleasant, like eating liver or doing these different things.
Oh.
And it's like when you come across something that is just so pleasant and relaxing, it's like, this is the
Hmm.
way life is supposed to be.
Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today. This has been so incredibly fascinating. I'm going to have to listen to it over again to like really
Thank you.
understand all the sciencey stuff that you broke down for us. But it has been just so fascinating, and I'm super excited about the light fusion stuff that is coming out soon. So you'll keep us updated on all of that when it's, ready to purchase. The mask, of
Totally.
course, is already to purchase now, and probably the lowest price you'll find moving forward. So if that's something that people are interested in, definitely a great time to grab that. Yeah, thanks again. And yeah, we'll be in touch and probably do this again sometime.
Sounds good, Nili. We're coming to see you soon. Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Bye.
Okay. Bye, guys.